we've had multiple conversations with you talking about sanitation in the city, much of the problems. I suppose these bylaws are coming now as solution or potential solution to some of these problems. But for some people, the bylaws are new. What are these bylaws?
Okay, thank you. So many people will be aware of the previous bylaws, at least theoretically. And actually, funny enough, for people who aren't aware of them, they're always proposing, oh, you for fine people them, we're not for the jail people them. So that's what the old bylaw said. But the point of non-compliance with the old bylaw was if you were caught illegally depositing garbage. So you need to be caught. There needs to be evidence. People need to see that you were throwing your garbage in the gutter or on the street. In a city with a population of 1.5 million people, which is roughly what we have today, and with only 100 Met Police, 150 is where we were, but, you know, through retirement, sickness, and so forth. Over the last few years, we've come back down to 100. So if you think about 1.5 million people and you think about 100 Met Police, you know, enforcing that bylaw means one Met Police has to be keeping an eye on 150,000 people. So it's not going to happen. And actually it also doesn't incentivize investment into the sector. So sanitation is the responsibility of the city council. And in many countries, in many cities, you'll find that the city council outsources this to the private sector. Why? Because of the level of capital investment required. You see that FCC has tricycles, we have trucks, but we had outsourced to a degree to micro enterprises. That required a whole value chain, which at different times got broken. Had we been able to operate the transfer stations we built in 2021, that would have meant that our tricycles would have had a longer lifespan and they would have been more profitable because they would have been working within the confines or the boundaries of those transfer stations, which are in the blocks. I'll come on to the blocks. If we had been able, if the government had provided the land to the World Bank that the World Bank had required in order for us to build a sanitary landfill and shut down Bomber and King Tom, that also would have improved the system we rolled out initially. Those two things didn't happen. And as a consequence, the small micro enterprises that we invested in, the tricycle groups that we trained, provided with equipment, and set on their way with the hope that their profitability would enable them to grow faster and have more tricycles in the market, increase household waste collection, because those things didn't happen. And because also the Cleaner Zone competition, which was about behavior change, was also halted in the year when FCC wasn't able to collect property rates. So that value chain that we had designed had different things that broke. So coming in with this new bylaw is basically looking at lessons learned, saying, okay, we're going to need investment, but it's going to have to be people with deeper pockets who, even if they have challenges, they will have the resources to overcome those challenges. We also have looked at this and said, okay, people's behavior changed with the carrot, which was the prizes. I remember you were part of, and Stella Bango was part of the judging for the Cleaner Zone competition. It changed with the carrot, but when the carrot wasn't there, we couldn't apply the stick because the stick just means you have to be everywhere all the time. So one of the disadvantages of not being able to apply the stick is that, or was that, you actually had situations where even if it was a Masada or Mr. Clean, the bigger companies, as well as the smaller tricycle groups, people would have their garbage collected for a month. When the service provider would come for payment, they'd refuse to pay. And there was nothing they could do. Because, you know, going to the police for a case like that, going to court would just take so much time, so much effort, and this wasn't worth their while. So this question of compliance, you know, enforcement also played in. So
Mayor, I'm so sorry to cut you there. I would look at the enforcement and compliance, but I just want the public to first of all
to know what the
understand
bylaws. I'm about to tell you.
So they get that. Because before now, the city council, not under your administration though, I recall it was even back then in the days of President Ernest Bai Koroma, they had this, I think it was Operation Weed, Operation Free Flow. It worked for like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
so
but
people, for some reason, were doing community policing now. We're reminding others, oh, you shouldn't litter the streets. You shouldn't even urinate in the streets. For about 2 weeks, it worked. You saw mass compliance, but that was because there was awareness to understand what that was.
So the reason I'm giving this background is because when it comes to sanitation, it's important that people understand context. It's also important that people understand what we've done, because they were all part of what we've done. Everybody participated in the Cleaner Zone competition. People started to use Find Me in Freetown, you know, to look for their waste service provider. So they know the mayor had brought in a system. They need to understand what went wrong. They need to understand that those transfer stations that we built were not operated, and that had an impact. The sanitary landfill, because many people have said, oh, but they don't say we're mayor, they talk it and they can't lock bomb. You know, so it's important that people understand that there's a reason why something that was said has not happened. It's part of addressing exactly what you said, Phebean, which is the psyche. People need to understand that no. Mayor not just did talk and then it not happen. There was a reason. So let's get the reason understood, and then let's say, okay, now in light of these facts, this is now what we're going to do. So we understand, we lay the groundwork, as it were. So what do the new bylaws say? And again, I want to say thanks to everybody who contributed, to the many people who were part of stakeholder engagements, to the Ministry of Local Government that took it to the Attorney General's office, and to the parliamentarians who supported us through this process. So thank you to everyone. Now the law is in place, and the law does this. It divides the city into 8 blocks, from Ward 399 to Ward 446. And every 6 wards is 1 block. So we have 8 blocks, blocks 1 to 8. From Allentown to Levuma, 1 to 8. So that's how the city is divided from a waste management perspective. And we use it internally in council for other things as well. What the law now says is that every block is serviced by a waste service provider authorized by FCC. So this is FCC collecting your garbage, but FCC is working through a contractor that we have selected through a public procurement process. That process has been concluded. It went on for several months. It went through the National Procurement, Public Procurement Agency. It's all been done. So the 8 blocks now have a waste service provider associated with them. In some cases, one waste service provider has 2 blocks, but you will see the list and that will go out. So number 1, we are now operating in blocks. Number 2, each block has a waste service provider that is responsible to collect the garbage from your house on behalf of council. Number 3, each household and business, each property must register with your waste service provider for your waste to be collected. Sitting beneath all of this is our digital property rate system. So you remember that some years ago, we introduced a digitization of our property rates. That means we have a digital image and a database of every property in the city. Last month, we did 21 days of a drone survey across the city to update that data. So we have data on every property. So in the app where the registration is happening, we already know where you are. And when you register, it will come up on the app, it will come up on our system that household number 13 Campbell Street has registered. Now, before, the non-compliance was if you threw your garbage in the street. But of course, if you're not registered for household waste collection, we know that you're going to throw your garbage in the street. If you're not going to do it directly, you're going to do it by using an unauthorized waste provider like Clean Saloon, who will take your garbage and throw it in the street. So non-compliance now is non-registration. So if you don't agree, you don't register for your waste to be collected, we will see it because we have the data and we will enforce it. Now our Met Police don't need to be going around looking to see if they can catch you. They just need to go to the houses that are not registered and exercise the enforcement at your doorstep. To make this easy, because obviously with 129,000 properties in our city,